goes all the way in, right, for 8 to 12 inches deep. Now, I got to repack that hole when I'm done, because that's what the stupid hole looks like. And every now and then, 3/4 hole doesn't look so good. I don't have enough information in that stupid I got to drill 2 of them. But if I take that same hole and I go 5 inches out there, and I drill a separate hole, put an epoxy bolt in there, then I put a mechanical piece of angle back to the bracket, and I mechanically fasten it with a bolt, I'm at 200% now into that building, ain't I? What do I need? 100%. Well, that's my new epoxy bolt. Why are you keeping the old one? Because I don't want to touch the building. It's a 50, 75-year-old building. Let sleeping dogs lie. Whatever's in there is buried, and I don't need it anymore anyway. It's a backup now, because my primary became my new bolt to the side. It's the same 3/4 hole. Same expense to the client, except I use it for $50, not for $250, $500. This is what it looks inside when you throw that camera in there. Can anybody tell me what that is?
Probably rust.
I don't know. I don't even know if this is one of my last colonoscopies that I did. I mean, you can't tell what the hell this thing is. You can't get much information. So just give them a new thing. It took $250 to figure this crap out. For $50, it gets a new epoxy bolt. We're still going to talk about the through bolt into the wall. So don't think we're not getting into the wall. The wall. This is masonry connection, and in some cases, if it's a factory building of some sort, I just blow a hole all the way through, and I just put a plate on the backside because it's a factory building. I don't have to epoxy bolt it. I just drill a brand new hole and then put a plate on the inside and call it a day. But sometimes I got finished product inside, I can't do it. I have to epoxy bolt. But we'll talk about and see. There's an eyeball in there. See, there's somebody looking down. You can't see. So a lot of times, this is, in rare cases, on a masonry building, we do have a plate on the inside. And we get to see stuff like this. You know what I'm saying? You got to repack it, you got to verify it. But not always the case. That's not always the case. Load testing. It's as simple as it sounds. If you have a typical 3x5 platform, which is most of your standard platforms, 3 feet by 5 feet, to receive 2 stairs and interchange and go back up, that's 15 square feet times 100 pounds per square feet. 1,500 pounds. 15 times 100. I got to put 1,500 pounds of sand, water, dirt, blocks, anything that will represent 1,500 pounds.
What do you use when you do yours?
Sandbags, and we've also used it this way. This is cabling. We actually used a truck down below, and we ran a cable system through the whole thing, and we load tested because it had a perfect angle going across. And we put 3,000 something pounds. There's this is an actual load test. You got to put 40% of the load, so let's take 1,000 pounds. I'm loading it with 1,000. I got to only put 400 for the first 10 minutes. I got to take measurements before, during, and after. I got to cable the thing to each other. So I got to cable this one to this one. There's all this safety cabling and all this other crap. And basically, you only load it with 40%. You watch it for 10 minutes. Take measurements before, during, and after. If it doesn't deflect more than 3/16 of an inch. 3/16. Okay? So then once it passes the first 10 minutes, everything's cool, you load the remaining 60% or 600 pounds, and then you do the remaining test. This is us lifting the tail of a truck that weighs 7,000 pounds. So as we're lifting the tail, we only needed to achieve 3,000 pounds. And that's with one of those digital monitors that basically, you have a load cell, and you're just stretching a load cell. Very time consuming, we want money for that. Just setting up for it, taking it down and breaking it apart, what a pain in the ass.
Like the building you just showed doing the load test there. It looked like 5-story.
10-story.
How long does the load test take?
It's each floor is going to get an hour at least.
So you're talking a 2-day project?
Yeah. All right, missing pieces of fire escape. We get this every now and then. And again, we'd always come back with a report if there's a rail missing or anything like that. This is that fireman piece where the fireman basically fell through in New York. And he won this case. He fell through these stairs right there. 2-3 stairs to let go, and he fell through. Landed down here, went back up, saved the woman up on that 3rd floor and the baby. Came back down. He was 28 years old, but he fractured his vertebrae or something in his spine when the adrenaline wore off. Sued. The thing about this, they sued the owner individually on this one. And the main reason that he won was that it wasn't an accident. He wasn't trying to get more money because of an accident-related injury. He was suing the owner directly for negligence because the rust, he was able to prove that for 25 years or more, the rust had been growing. and that the owner did nothing about it. So what occurred there was actually negligence. And he won.
Without the owner having records about.
Well, the owner's supposed to certify it every 5 years, all that thing. He didn't.
I mean, he knows that. The owner knows that, he has to do that. But we have to enforce it, so that way, in a case like this, where the guy sued personally, the owner would have had documentation from the, say, the.
That's the
Basically, you as an owner of a building supposed to know.
You're
what
charged with
supposed to
knowing.
do.
Ignorance of the law is no excuse. So right now, anything that occurs, the owner, because you bought that property, you are charged with having knowledge of stuff you don't even know you're supposed to know. And you can get sued, and everything occurs to you because you buying property, you are assuming that you are properly trained and informed on the ownership of property.
Unbelievable.
Your obligation to maintain the building.
Yeah.
That's it.
So let's take a look at this, guys. Now, I'm going to tell you about fire escapes, why I said at the beginning that I'm going to prove that fire escapes rot from the inside out, not from the outside in. Please go to this page here. And we're going to start taking fire escapes apart. And this is it. This is all fire escape. 100 years of construction have not changed. 100% of all the fire escapes you ever have in the United States are in these next 2-3 pages. So guys, every masonry building, actually let's start with the simplest of connection. I'm going to use a tread as an example. But every connection, a rail connection, a tread connection, a support connection gets built this way. So you'll understand why they fail immediately. That's why I'm going to tell you, all rust starts internally or externally, guys? Internally. Why? Because it never got any protection. So as soon as I can prove that to you today, then you'll understand when you walk up to a rust bucket of a fire escape, where did it come from? Inside. Automatically making all connections suspect. So you no longer write a scrape and paint violation, you're writing a repair, paint, test violation. And then don't ever point out a tread, don't ever point out anything. Repair, paint, test. So guys, every fire escape in the United States was built from a 20-foot length of steel. When I make my tread, make my rails, I take 2 pieces of naked steel that comes from a mill under a roof. They bring it to the shop, we bring it in on another roof, and we keep the rain off of it. Because as soon as you expose any raw metal to rain, what happens? Immediate surface rust, right? You take this naked pieces of steel and you put the 2 together and you pop a hole through it, and you either put a rivet or a square head bolt from 50, 75 years or 100 years ago, and then as soon as you get that connection tightened or riveted, you paint it. So the metal that's surrounding that connection, is that protected? The connection inside that is naked, is it encapsulated? Okay. When you get heat in the summer, what happens to things? Expand and contract, so it does this. And then when it cools down in the winter, it does what? So my painted metals, they don't have a problem, right? They expand and contract. But what about my connections? What do? They move. As soon as you move, what happens to the paint seal that I used to have there? It cracks. Rust needs 2 things to grow. It needs air, water. And it didn't have that. It actually had moisture from before. Do you guys ever like sweat a pipe? And when you sweat a copper pipe, what's it look like it's doing? Does it look like it's losing its moisture when you start heating up a piece of steel? It looks like some moisture is leaving it. That's actually moisture. But what's it need in order to form rust? It needs air. But we stopped it from getting air in that connection, whether it be a rail, a tread, or support. We stopped it from getting air because we painted it. Did we prime it at least? Before we joined these 2 pieces of raw naked steel together, did we prime it at least? No. So 50, 75, 100 years ago, they took 2 raw pieces of steel, put it together, bolted it, put a nut or a rivet on it, and then they put it to the elements and they painted the whole structure. But the whole structure did this every year. So what was the first crack in the connection here? So it cracked and it let what in? It already got water. It already has water.
Air.
Right? And steel already got water. It let air. And what did it do? Starts rusting right there. So 50, 75, 100 years ago, these fire escapes started rusting where? Inside. Because the metal on the outside looks beautiful. And you keep looking at it, but at the connection, What's it starting to do day one when you put it up? As soon as it got the crack. That's why when you have galvanized fire escapes now, they don't have that ability because it's two galvanized pieces getting together, then bolted. So now, 25, 50, 75 years ago, you got some surface rust on your fire escape in that connection because it moved and it cracked. What are you supposed to do immediately because you're on top of the maintenance part of it? Wire brush it and paint it again, knowing that this cracking thing would let air get into your connections and do what? Did anybody do anything 50, 75, 100 years ago? No. So, 25 years later, what do we have sitting in every connection? You have 1/16, 1/8, 1/4. Yet you look on the other side, there's nothing. Why? I don't know. You go on the back of the building, and it's pristine. There's nothing wrong with it. Why? Because it's not the one that gets all that rain. You know, there's a certain side of the building that gets beaten to death, and there's another side. There's another fire escape that's underneath a tree. Stays moist all the time. What do you think happens to it? Rusts like crazy. There's some fire escapes that get a lot of rain, a lot of heat, a lot of rain, a lot of heat. What happens to them? Rust. What happens on a building with 4 fire escapes? You can get 4 different stories out of 4 fire escapes put there the same day. So right now, 25 years later, now what am I supposed to do here? Open up the connection, take out all the rust, put primer on both ends, put the bolt back in. Did they do that? No, because Joe the landscaper showed up and did what? And Billy Bob the welder did what? Welded the nose of it. And it said to you, that's right. The next one that came along is that 50 years later, the thing's at a 1/4 inch plus. The rivet that used to be a stopper from it going, you know, the angle is creeping outwards till eventually it's out where? It's out too far that the only thing holding in its place is compressed rust. Because the rivet that it used to rely on to basically catch that little walk of yours is no longer there because you're right on the edge. So when you step on this, what happens? Tenants or firemen, right?
Inspector.
Now, 2 years after that fireman got hurt, we got called in for the inspection by the lawyer to do a case. This is what we found when we got there, 2 years after the fact. And as I was walking up, guess what was falling underneath my feet? Now, this is a fire escape full of lawyers and everybody. And we're on a fire escape where they only fixed the 3 treads that the guy fell through. Right after we submitted all this information, the case was settled. That the fire escape, even 2 years after the case, was still not, was ready for the next fireman. All right, single connections into the building. Let's get this. Make your notes if you wish. We're going to cover how all fire escapes are made, okay? It's only buried 8 to 12 inches deep into the masonry wall. That's it. It doesn't go all the way through, guys. Every single one. In a few rare cases, they'll go all the way through and then they slice the angle and they'll splay it out. I've seen one instance. See all the cracks? A lot of times people don't realize your sills crack and then they feed water to the fire escape. Because the fire escape rust grows and guess what it does? It cracks the sill. Then the sill feeds water to the fire escape. See this fire escape? 2 staircases? This support doesn't have a brace. Somebody took away the brace. So that thing's only buried 8 to 12 inches deep, carrying 2 staircases full of people.
The problem with the drawing up on the left is you have a air gap between your brick veneer and the masonry wall behind it. You don't embed into the brick veneer. You'll seal it to prevent water entry and protect it, but you're tied to the brick veneer. The brick veneer depends on that's tied to the wall behind it. It's not designed to take a lateral load on it.
No, I'll show you again.
You need 8 inches of embedment into the masonry wall behind the
I am.
So
I am.
behind
This is the veneer. This is 8 to 12 inches deep into the.
But based on the drawing, it doesn't tell us.
Yeah, it's not the scale, but basically we state that it's 8 to 12 inches deep into the.
Into the masonry wall behind it.
Yeah,
Don't
I'll
count-
cover.
do
As a
not
matter of fact,
count-
again, we're here again. So most of yours is not singles into the building. They're this. So it's the veneer is not structural.
Don't count the veneer as part of the masonry.
Not at all. It's 8 to 12 inches deep into the cement wall here. Okay? And again, with the support, that's either bolted or welded here. Now, we're gonna talk about welding today, guys, and also back into here. So now let's take a look at some of the other problems that you have. Water gets driven into your bricks and into the veneer. These things rot. Now, this is what the engineers of record are supposed to be watching for and giving you feedback information. This is the rare case when a support is actually through the masonry building. This happens. But look, sometimes they use small donuts. Now, this is usually on mill building. This is usually on factory building. Very rare is it on residentials. A lot of them will have the plate. Okay? I'm going to cover the wood. See, every now and then, even the through bolt that has the donut gets sucked in through the brick. The brick's all shattered. A lot of water. Some of these fire escapes are tilted back. All the water goes to the back. This is what happens. A lot of water. Just keep eating away the platforms. This is on a what I call it, a library. We call it a public library. 1 inch of rust on that gusset. In case you want to grow ferns, fire escapes are a great place to grow ferns. There's enough water coming into them. This is another way. Fire escapes are usually when they have a lake to the ground. This is one other way that you have fire escapes. They either they're either cemented into the building or they have a lake to the ground. This is what we call a bridge. This is a lake, and that's a lake. And that's when you can have a bridge.
When you do an inspection and you see a defect, you spray paint it, right?
Yep.
Now, there are other companies out there that do inspections too, right?
Yeah.
Is that an industry standard to spray paint this?
The first inspection is called a confidence test. That's just photographs and what we require, what we recommend is a video walkthrough so that you, in layman's terms, can see and hear what's going on. The second part of the inspection is the marking, is prepping it for bids, meaning that's when they spray paint all the violations. Because they don't want to give you big money right off the bat to go right into this whole thing. So they want an evaluation first, then you get the bid documents prepping for permits. That's when everything's sprayed or drawn, and you point on the drawing where exactly what needs to be done with repair criteria. So as you can see, this is one where it has legs to the ground. Okay. Legs to the ground. This also happens when somebody gets smashed into a building. Everybody thinks the repair is the veneer. The repair of this is behind the veneer, into the masonry wall. So a lot of guys will just take all these bricks out, smash it with cement, call it a day. Where actually the damage is behind the veneer. The veneer is not structural. And this is a typical wood structure. Every wood structure that doesn't have legs to the ground has to have a through bolt with a plate. Every single one. Okay? If you go up to a building and you see lag screws, see these lag screws? If you see 1, 2, 3, 4, and you don't have an out-facing bolt, it's lag screwed into the building. These will weed water, rot the wood, and these things will pull away from the building. All structures must be, and we just covered them all. If you have a lake, the way I fix this, I get to a building and it's all lag screwed, and the guy has a finished wall on the inside that he doesn't want me to touch because it has plumbing or something. As soon as I put a leg to the ground, I don't have to through bolt it on the wood structure. Understand? Because the building becomes a leg, the leg becomes a leg. Otherwise, that client's got to let me in the building. I got to put another through bolt with a plate on the inside, picking up the inside studs. All wood structures have to have through bolts. And some masonry structures will have this all the way through, but I've only seen them on mill buildings and factories.
And the bolts always go out?
Yeah, they face out, yes, with a big nut on it. 3/4 or 5/8 is the
And that's on
standard.
the outside, you're saying?
The top one.
You get the top one. Yeah, it's a through bolt. It's, when you look up, you know it's a through bolt because it's facing outward.
On my building, they moved the fire escape from the front to the yard at, who knows how long ago. And when we were renovating, I saw the plates in there, you know, and some of the bolts were still in there. It never occurred to me.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah, where they went new or with the old place? Because every now and then in renovations, a lot of these contractors not knowing what the hell this is, they cut these things away. They cut them on the inside and they bury it.
So the land boat always has to go to the outside, it can't go to the inside?
No, there's no such thing as, I got an inspector, building inspector corrected me on this. There's no such thing as a lag bolt. It's a lag screw. These are called lag screws. This is called a through bolt. It goes through the building.
So the through bolt has to have
a plate on the back to pick up wall, and it has to have a nut on the front to basically grab the bracket. So when the bracket wants to rip away, it has to bring a whole wall with you.
Could it be the other way around, where you have the end going through?
Sure,
and then the
you can have the head over here going in and then putting that over there and then cut off the excess, sure, but it still needs to get verified. And a lot of times you can tell, but the reason why they do it in reverse is so that you don't have to do the verification process.
There's no bolt inside.
Yeah, as soon as you reverse this, because if it has anything that looks like a head, I think it's a lag screw.
A lot depends though on the framing inside.
Well, it picks up- it picks up-
Building, okay, you have to see where their connection through.
Right.
Where's that plate going through? If they go through the middle of the stud, which is 1.5 inches wide,
Yeah.
and you're going with the 1/2 inch to 5/8 inch bolt, you've now taken a good percentage of the meat out of the middle of that on a wall that might be load bearing, and you need to see the plate to ensure it's not just on one stud.
Yeah,
Because
usually you
how
would never,
much weight you're gonna put on that laterally with the load test, this way,
Right.
shear.
We-
You pull the stud out of the wall if it's
right,
not properly.
we never go through a stud, that's not the norm, and usually the plate in the back picks up 2 to 3 studs. In
Yeah.
some cases, they want you to match the platform outside is 4 feet, they want an inside plate 4 feet, picking up 4, 6, 8 studs.
Because a lot of the framing under the window.
Yeah, you don't usually go through the stud, you go to the side
You
with a
wanna
through
go
bolt.
past
But
the
the
window.
intention is, if the wall gives way, you've got other problems. You know what I'm saying? If the wall, if you land on the ground with a wall and a window on your face, there's no problem with the fire escape. There's a
No.
problem with the
Wall,
with the
but
wall.
here's the issue of connection, to
Right.
verify.
And that's
The
what you
building
want.
inspector-
75 years from now,
If
you
I
guys
have
just want us to
come out-
verify, that's
if
all.
If I have to come out and do an inspection on a permit, you are opening the wall for me. Okay, because I want to see what you're attaching it to.
Right, that's on a new construction, or are you talking about
Even
old?
on a rehab, if you're doing that, and it's
Oh, yeah,
under a
yeah,
permit,
yeah.
you're gonna have to open the wall because
Yeah.
I wanna see it. And I
Yeah.
have seen circumstances where, guess what? The framing wasn't so good, what good is putting the fire escape attached to it?
You're, on brand new construction, you're correct. Usually it's open.
Or
Normally, we
even
open up
rehab.
a 1 foot square, 2 foot square, so that when we put our plates, it's there, we photograph them, so that the inspector, the building inspector has to come in and verify those, not only fire prevention. Because it's part of
you
a
have, you have to remember that same wall, the nails they may have used are rusted out too.
Yeah, yeah, oh, we got,
And
we
the
got so
lumber
many
is
different
rusted
issues.
out also.
This is the cantilever. Let's move on to the cantilever. You guys ever have any problem with cantilevers?
Just so you know, in New Jersey, the code references those counterbalance stairs.
Yeah.
Okay?
They're called cantilevers, counterbalanced stairs, counterbalanced ladders. And what the word counterbalance means is there's something countering the weight,
All right.
so that it can go, it has to go down with you doing something. So now, do you guys see this little piece right here? That's called a release arm. Some have it, some don't. Let me tell you what happens if you don't have one. If you don't have one, what it's supposed to be, a single action requiring no special knowledge, supposed to drop 2 to 3 feet per second. I'm supposed to get to it, step on the first or second tread, it automatically activates it. It's so perfectly balanced that it comes down at 2 to 3 feet per second, hits the ground and stays down there, because when I leave, it stays there.
It's not
Okay?
supposed to go back up.
It's
when
not
you
supposed to
step
go
off.
back up. I'll give you the reason why. I have a 150-pound woman, a 50-pound child, and there's a fire. They come out to the fire escape, there's no release arm on it, the woman walks down, the cantilever is positioned, and they usually have a chain. How many of you have seen the chain?
You don't have a cable or
Cable.
a rod.
That's an illegal attachment, because I'll tell you, I'll show you photographs why. Every time you see a chain, the fire escape is in violation. And I'll tell you why. Because they put weights on it, because the fire escape that used to come down by itself and stay down on the ground, and people were breaking in, the owner would have to go in the middle of the night and put it back up. So what do you do to stop going in the middle of the night to put those things back up?
Make it go up automatic.
You stay and keep it up. So you put weights over here. And the weights you put here, what happens, if you put too many weights, what happens to the nose? Will it stay horizontal, or will it go beyond horizontal? It'll go beyond horizontal. So what do? You go to Home Depot, you buy $25 a chain and do what? Chain the tail back up to here, and what's it looking like? Horizontal. But now you got this 150-pound woman with a 50-pound child, fire in the building, the woman goes out, drags the child behind her or in front of her? In front of her, right? And then all of a sudden she goes, I'm sorry, I don't push my child either. You drag the child because you're clearing the way, you're going through safety, right? So she comes in, there's no release arm on this thing, she goes down the stairs, and she steps on the first tread of a fire escape that's been modified with a chain and there's extra weight in the back. What happens?
Doesn't move.
Doesn't move. She goes out 3 steps. What happens?
Baby.
Nothing. She goes out 5 steps. Now, she's out in the middle of this thing with her child, and what starts to happen?
Now it goes.
Now it goes. Does it go to 2 to 3 feet per second or 5 to 10 feet per second?
Fast.
So 5 to 10 feet per second it starts coming down. Does she even know what it, she ever trained on this thing before? She starts freaking out, starts yelling, does what? The child starts yelling at everybody, and they hold on, and the thing slams the ground and does what?
Knocks her off and the kid goes back up.
Ejects her, but she held on. She's related to Mary. She held on, she's screaming and yelling and cursing. She grabs the child, because the thing hits the ground and stays down because they're more than halfway down. What does her weight do? It keeps the thing down. So she now goes the remaining five or so steps with the child behind, and she steps off the fire escape and takes her foot off the nose of the cantilever. What happens?
Shoot catapults.
The kid goes up, but again, Mary's kids, so relatives of Mary's kids, and they hold on. This kid, 8 years old, is up at 12 to 14 feet off the ground. Mom's in her 90s in her pajamas, and she's telling the kid to do what?
Jump.
Remember that child photograph I showed you of a child on a ladder? You don't think the mom was down below or somebody was down below telling the kid to do what?
Let go.
How many 8-year-old kids you know are going to jump 12 to 14 feet? So now the mom is there and she's freaking out, screaming and crying, and what does she do? She goes, runs back to the front of the building to do what?
Go inside.
Come back out there.
Did she bring her keys with her? So she's locked out of her house. She's looking around for what? So I'm going to smash that door in. She finally finds a brick or something to smash the door. Who comes along? Fire department. And does what? Says, what are you doing, crazy lady? Says, oh, my kid in the back, in the alleyways and everything. And the fireman runs back there and says to the kid,
Jump.
kid says what?
No.
You jump.
Fireman, how much time has gone by already? Fireman runs back now and gets the pipe pole or a ladder and does what to the fire escape?
Hold it.
Pulls it down, and by the way, this is one of the chiefs of the squad, the captain of the squad or somebody, brings it down, brings the fire escape down, puts his foot on it, and says to the kid, what? Come on, get back with your mother and run away. And now what's that fireman doing? He's holding it down. Is he fighting the fire?
Wasting time.
Wasting time, because if he lets that go, what happens? Because can any of the firemen go up and fight this fire and get other people out? So he takes his foot out, goes back up 12 feet. So does that sound logical in when they originally made this thing? With the release cantilever, you come up here, it blocks your way. It's a bar that blocks your way. As soon as you single axle requiring no special knowledge, you just push it out of your way. You run yourself through it because it's so dark. What happens when it twists away? It releases down here, just goes like that. Same thing, it's a single axle requiring no special knowledge. You pull it out of the way because it's blocking your way, and this thing starts to drop 2 to 3 feet per second, hits the ground and stays down. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now, can vagrants come up and pull this thing down? Can they tamper with this thing if it's locked up here? Can they tamper down here with this thing that's locked up there?
No.
No. Can you do the same thing with a latch on a ladder that drops the same way? Can they tamper with it 12 feet off the ground? Can they pull it down? If they want to break in the building, they'll find other ways. This is not the only way, but it'll deter the. So this is an out of balance cantilever. What's it doing? Aiming at the ground, right? This is another cantilever. See the release arm open? See the chain? So every chain you're ever going to see on a fire escape is what?
Illegal.
Illegal.
Legal.
It's illegal.
Just checking.
Smashes, crashes on fire escape, guys. Cantilevers get smashed all the time by trash trucks. All the time. Trash trucks, moving trucks, and cement trucks. Staircases. Staircases must be tied here, must be tied there. So not only your treads can fall through, if the stringer is not tied correctly, you're gonna fall. Right? So you got rust on what we call the egress clips, top and bottom, they're always gone. Now this is a 25-story hotel in Chicago. I took that photograph from the ground.
Good camera.
See how much rust? If it takes a 1/4 inch to grow 25 years, how much rust we got there?
1/4 inch.
Right? Look at all these things, hammer testing. This is how we keep ourselves safe. When we walk these things and we're inspecting, we're hammer testing for our own safety. To see whether or not these things are gonna give way. Trash, trucks smash back into these things. Railing systems, tying back into the building. There's a lateral load test that has to be applied so those things don't give way. Rust in between two pieces of steel. The gratings, a lot of these gratings has these spacers. Those are all rotten on the inside. Treads. See all the rotten spacers start rotting on the inside? Rust, guys. This is a school here in New Jersey by the ocean. Elementary school.
Salt water.
Salt water. Guys, you got these ladders here, ready? I'm gonna make sure, you guys are the only ones doing this. These are ladders out from East Coast to West Coast. This is a West Coast ladder, those three in a slider, you guys don't have any here. Okay? See these ladders here? These are called accordion ladders, very popular on the West Coast, but they don't have any freezing rain that will lock these babies up, so they actually accordion out into a full ladder. And that's how a lot of them have, up to 25 to 35 feet, you can have a ladder. But on average, it's 15 to 25 feet is the average ladder, called an accordion ladder. Fixed ladders, somebody asked me today, do we have fixed ladders 7 to 9 feet off the ground? All fixed ladders end usually 7 to 9 feet off the ground here, and then you can jump to the ground from that place. Or, as we were talking about here with Kevin Faribault out of Atlantic City here, and you guys know that you can jump 16 feet to the ground off any single family structure, right?
No, not,
So
no,
what's-
it's not be single family.
Well, 1 or 2 family.
No.
Well, actually, it could be
Multi-family too,
Okay.
16 feet.
16 feet, right?
15 feet from the.
I mean, I won't jump 12, I'll just make my kids jump 16. I'll say,
15
guys,
from the window, so.
you first.
Out the window.
Let the fat guy go first.
That became a big, we were on that came up, the only reason I know about that, we did a community, I think in Montauk or, it was a senior age home facility, over 100 apartments and units and stuff in a big enclosed community. And none of them had a fire escape in the back, and they were expecting all these people 60 to 75 years old to jump 16 feet to the ground.
Wow.
And they're like, dude, the ladder, no, the law says. Okay. Hey, somebody help me get grandma over the rail here.
It's also at the discretion of the fire official and the building official. They could actually say no.
There's discretion, but there's a lot of fight back. Okay, you guys see all this, right? This is standard. This is supposed to be balanced, guys. As soon as you touch it and you just move, you just start it, it drops 2 to 3 feet per second by itself. It's not supposed to come up by itself. And if you have a release latch, you know how easy I can make a release latch for it? You go to Home Depot, you get 18 inches of chain. You put a bolt through the chain on your rail. You scoop the chain through one of the runs, bring the chain back up, hook it onto a stick up. Is that a release mechanism? Single action requiring no special knowledge. Anybody from there can say, okay, it looks like this thing is holding, and as soon as I lift the chain and I let go of the chain, what happens to the ladder? Starts dropping. That's how easy you can make a release latch. Otherwise, both of them are just a bar that comes over from the rail and gets underneath the run. With that, can anybody pull this fire escape down? That's why it's a safety mechanism and an anti-theft device also. Do all of them have it? No. Nowadays, you can basically throw your belt up there, hook onto it, bring it down, and basically break into the building. So the biggest problem I have is not the balancing of these. These are counterbalanced ladders, and we showed counterbalanced cantilevers, or counterbalanced stairs, they call them. This is the thing that you guys have done that is wrong here. Oh, goosenecks, before we get there. Goosenecks, who loves goosenecks?
No,
He's gone? Yeah. You're right. These are all rotten right here. They're not properly attached, and guess what? They're supposed to be walked during an inspection, or identified as needing to be refurbished, because I don't want to walk over this thing. Every one of these bolts is always 50 to 75 years old.
Most of the times they make the repairs, they just tar over, they don't even screw them down.
Well,
They don't.
then you're supposed to load test.
Load tests.
Okay?
So you
Anybody here love the word load test?
Oh, we get
Is it the trump card that you just basically pull out? Depending on the structural condition, were you satisfied? When you walked out to some job and they Mickey Mouse this guy and that guy, and you got a certificate in your hand from an engineer, What do you say to them?
Hammer time.
Every time.
I'm just gonna put the fire code official on the fire escape and that'll be a low penalty.
All right, guys, here's what you're worried about, this stuff. You guys see this all over the place. This is called a flop-out ladder. Basically, they took a ladder that they didn't want to fix the weights on it anymore, and they cut it in half over here, and what do? You push it. Now, when this thing swings out, can you drive, if there was a fireman underneath going, hey, and you flop out that ladder and he's underneath it, what's gonna happen to that guy's skull? A child or a dog?
He's gonna go over.
And there's usually some chain, they usually have some crazy chain over here that you're supposed to like let it out slowly. At what point does it reach when it goes horizontal that you can't hold it anymore? And then all of a sudden it becomes a dropping thing? So is it even make any sense? Because you can sort of let it go to a certain, it's usually chain that, can you use your hands with it, or is it like all like that cutting chain, you know, that crazy Home Depot chain that you buy? This is illegal. These are all illegally modified. They have one choice. Take this and mount it on the wall, so there's still enough ladder here to mount it permanently on the wall and jump 7 to 9 feet off the ground anyway. They're already there. Or just remove the rest of it and they jump 7 to 9 feet from there. Or make this thing a slider with weights on it if they want to get all the way to the ground. And they even have those fold-out ladders, the ones that look like drain pipes, and you open them up and they open up to 18 inches wide. That's legal also. That goes all the way down to the ground. So this is illegal. Because when it opens, like now, it can kill somebody down below. There's no restraint from keeping it from swapping out. So every ladder that has a cut that's been modified, and that's the word, modified, is illegal. Cantilevers. See what happens when you get too much weight on the back? Will you write a violation on this one if you walk by this building? You saw that happening? So 25 bucks, Home Depot, what do? Chain it up, and what are you never gonna see? This. This is starting. You understand? This is actually in a school. I'm gonna talk to you guys about also, you know that your fire drill rule is? Twice a month you guys have fire drills at every school, including charter schools. You know they're supposed to use the fire escape during those fire drills?
We do them once a month.
Yeah, one's announced, one's unannounced.
We don't have any schools with fires.
Yeah, we don't.
Well, a lot of charter schools are using what?
Yes, one on top of it.
Not the only one.
Charter schools are renovating buildings that have fire escapes on them and using them as classrooms. Guys, here's a cantilever in
In
Chicago.
Jersey, if you're taking a building, I don't care whether you call it renovation, there was an office building, you're changing it to school, you're knocking it out of the fire. Changing it. Under the building code, you have to bring up the fire station.
I agree with you, but some people have gotten away with it. I did a charter school that had fire escapes on it, but I'll bring that up. I'll bring it up.
Jersey City.
Not Jersey City. Watch this cantilever. I'm going to release this cantilever. This is a big ass cantilever, probably 14 feet off the ground. Okay. Release it. That's my release arm. I released it. It drops 2 to 3 feet per second. Hits the ground. It stays down because it'll bounce once or twice. You know, and come down, stay down. But look how violent the work is. I mean, the actual job is with all that weight. It's violent. That same moment that we were doing this video training, this wasn't planned, but it should have been planned. Comes a cement truck down the alley. Now watch how close this guy gets.
Notorious for knocking his
If my fire escape was just slightly out of whack, that had no release arm on, holding it horizontally, he would have taken it down. So watch how close these trash trucks, moving trucks, and cement trucks get to fire escapes.
Most fire escapes are 14 feet off the ground for this very reason. Now let's see how close we can get to that weight system.
Well, no, look at the fire escape in the back. Do you see the chain on the other fire escape there? There's a chain on the other fire escape. Okay. So that was just convenient that guy came down the alleyway there. Okay, what are we gonna do? Couple things that you first do. When Boston was faced with this and that case and that lady doing that movie on that piece on fire escapes, this is what they immediately do. Building department, at the building department level, they said, all permits cannot be closed unless they have a current confidence test on file. So that helped automatically because fire prevention, working with the building department, said, building department, issue your certificate, your building permits, but don't close them. The only way you close a building permit is you either have a current confidence test, a recent one, you know what I'm saying, if it's a 5-year rule that takes 2 years old, you accept that, you know what I'm saying? Or you do a referral back to fire prevention and say, hey, we're closing this permit, but this guy didn't give us a current confidence test. That automatically makes fire prevention aware of a building that money's being spent on it for something bought, sold, renovated, whatever's going on.
Makes us want to go out and do the inspection.
Makes you want to go out and do the inspection. So that's what they did. So a lot of it starts with, the permit sign-off refusal. There's another thing you guys do, which is smoke detector sign-offs.
Yeah.
You can make it so that every building you go do a smoke detector sign-off, one more line item, you just ask for a copy. You're not asking to inspect, you want a copy of your current certification. Because if the fire alarm goes off, where are you gonna go? To the fire escape. So can I have a copy of your current certification? It could be up to 5 years old, can it? And you'll still accept it? Right? So I need that. And if they say, I don't have one, you say, well, I'll still sign off your smokes, but now I need to start another situation here for you I'll give you 30 days to get that up to, so I won't hold up your closing, I'm not gonna hold up your sale, but now that triggers the need for them to get that going. And depending on the discretion of the inspector, whether or not they wanna issue it or not, it's up to them. I've had some noise that says you can't refuse to sign off a smoke. But you're now asking as a line item for a copy of the current certification to be put in with the smoke. So imagine how many smoke inspections you do yearly that you just ask for the certification, because that asking triggers a violation anyway. So these are the kind of things you can do, okay? Change the laws, regulations, you talked about ordinances to make it the 5-year thing. Requirements, structurally sound must be kept painted. Well, good, we have confidence tests for that. So this is the classes that we've taught from here to Seattle, Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. was a class that we did, when I did that class, they had, between the entire department, probably 2 or 3 violations they wrote that year. So, we do them all over, Portland, Oregon, Jersey, New Hampshire, Maine, Texas. I've taught up in Chicago, LA, California, and basically the classes are exactly the same. And the main thing, that's why we started with this page. We said, do we have to change the laws, or are the laws already there for you? You spot repair anything on a fire escape, what do you automatically go to? If they don't want a load test, what do you want to give them as an alternative? Other evidence of strength, right? Which includes the tiebacks into the building. Do I need an engineer of record? Why do you need an engineer of record before any repairs are started?
You guys got a process for permits and.
Because in order to pull a permit, you have to have a report. That report was a meeting between fire prevention and the engineer of record, and there was a plan in the V in the road. The engineer and you are saying, are we going down the spot repair and load test? Are we going down the full refurbishment and no load test? But either way, the permit process needs an engineer oversight, because who's going to watch the repair process, which could take 1 week or 1 year? Who watches that? You or building department?
Building.
Nobody watches it. Building just issued a permit. The engineer of record is watching that, because he's going to give you the guaranteed sign-off at the end, isn't he? So he's going to get paid for 3 to 5 visits. Building permit comes in at the end when everything's all said and done, and the engineer of record has signed off a confidence test. Now the repair vendor calls in building department to come and sign off their permit. So they're doing the final walkthrough, but they're not even going to show up. They're going to say, oh, I'm ready for a walkthrough. Great. Did the engineer already sign off? Do you have a confidence test to give me? The guy goes, no. Well, as soon as your engineer of record has signed off the confidence test, then we'll come off and sign off the building permit. They say, oh, okay. Now the engineer of record comes down, does a confidence test, and can this be witnessed? Right? Any of this can be witnessed, so they want to notify you ahead of time that they're doing a confidence test, the final. He issues you the confidence test with a signature saying that it's been refurbished. There is no load test. The vendor, the repair vendor wants his money, and what you do, he calls for the permit sign-off. all three codes. Depending on the structural condition, the authority having jurisdiction shall accept by load test or other evidence, and then the building department says examine, test, or certify. All three codes concur. If there's a building code, if there's a municipal maintenance code, they're all gonna say the same thing, guys. Or, you know what they all say, a lot of them? They refer back, see the fire code, or see the building code. I've just made it so that you guys understand all three codes support the statement. Spot repair it, load test it. Refurbish it. What's the average cycle on a load test after you refurbish?
20 years.
20 years plus, right? Because I'll be using that evidence for 20 years with you. I'll be using other evidence of strength with you on that building for 20, 25 years. Confidence tests, they already exist. You go to seattle.gov, tacoma.gov, portland.gov. A lot of these tags are already there, so you don't have to believe it. You can go there and pull these. The 1 year, I love these 1 years, because the gooseneck walking, who's going to do that? You gotta love the test, and no more of these, right? No more. To the best of my information, knowledge, and belief, the fire escape is in conformity with the Massachusetts Building Code. Do you know this is still the certificate they use today? They haven't bitten the bullet yet to change over to this. And we've done training with all 4 associations in Massachusetts, and Boston hasn't done this yet, but all the cities around them have started to accept the documentation. There are no more opinion letters. So we'll make one of these up for your city, if you don't have one already. And we'll make up letters of you know, what's called inspector letters. Basically, whenever we tell you we're going to do something, we put it in writing. Everything's in writing. We tell you what's coming. And we're pretty much at the end of it. Do you guys have any questions? This is what a typical inspection looks like, with photographs. Not only is it bad, let me show you some photographs of why it's bad. And if I may show, I'll lend it on this one. Ready? Elizabeth, New Jersey. Slidescape, 12 stories. Ready? This is what you go in, 12 stories.
Get shots.
And it's right there. See that piece of building right there? You come down spiraling for 12
So you
stories.
stand on that platform and it spirals you down, huh?
You'd be flying by the time you got down to the end of that sucker.
You come spiraling.
One
This-
part.
And
this is the
apparently it
spiral.
comes back up for somebody else.
Every floor has, this is the roof. So this is the fire department guy with me that day. Now, they hadn't inspected this in so many years. It was kind of I don't have no other slidescapes in the United States other than this one that I've found. And you basically, it's on an Art Deco building, 1903 or something, and the spiral is right there. And then see this right here below on the ground level, it comes down spiraling, and then it takes a wicked right turn on a slide, a straight slide, and at the end is a metal door with a paddle, and your feet smack the metal paddle, and it opens it up, and then you run.
And it goes back up for somebody else?
Sounds like great
And it's a one-way
invention.
system. It's a one-way system.
That only takes one person, whatever.
No, everybody, just everybody. Every floor has these things. This is the roof. Every floor you open up the thing and you take your turn. As somebody's tumbling by, you fucking jump next. Oh,
Yeah, when you jump in there while he's coming by. he's-
oh yeah, there's a little love fest going on. Every now and then you go ass first,
That was
face
put in when
first.
they built it.
Holy.
That was put in. Slidescapes are instilled in some codes.
Huh?
They're not, slidescapes are in some codes still, but you can't, nobody's building, nobody's ever used them.
This is active right now?
This is an active building in
I gotta
Elizabeth,
call
New
I
Jersey.
gotta go over there, I gotta
Call-
call my buddy.
Me too, I gotta
Call
see
Mark Chai. Mark Chai is,
Mark?
I wanna
Mark.
I'd say
I know
it's
the name,
cheaper
but
to
I
supply
got
your
mine.
tenants with parachutes.
That's what I said.
So
I'd be
this is it.
charging them at the roof.
So guys, the main point that's in this is the end of the class. If you have any questions, this is being videotaped. It'll be online. I've got your cards. I'll send you links to the video again. So if you want to teach your other class, if you need some extra books because a lot of you guys didn't show up, let's take some extra books. And if you have any questions on any fire escape, snap a picture and shoot it to us. We'll give you an opinion on anything. And don't forget, when somebody, I know you guys are all worried, well, we can't recommend anybody. Whenever you get on a violation, somebody says, who do I call to inspect my fire escape? Just say, go to Google, type in fire escape engineer, Jersey City, and there's the list of people that are able to do that, because they're gonna call you anyway to verify the credentials. Who do I get to repair? Fire escape repair near Jersey City. And anybody who's advertising, and they are, welders, iron workers and stuff, they'll show up there. We're already marketed, we're already positioned accordingly, so we're not gonna get every call, but we can't do every call
They're not
anyway.
giving it to one person, it's just like going to the yellow
You say,
page,
it's like saying, it's like sending somebody to the yellow pages. You're
Right.
now sending them to Google, say, listen, just type in for the inspection part, type in Firescape Engineer, Jersey City. And when you're doing anything for the repair, you say Firescape Repair in Jersey City. And you've got a lot of New York and New Jersey people that will advertise there.
If you go on his website, and I've been on his website since I met him, and all kinds of stuff on it. I mean, it's all over.
Videos, classes like this, so inform yourself, that's the key. So if you need more books or more cards, I got them in the back there. If some of you guys didn't make the class, and my card I gave you can call me directly, and I can answer any kind of questions. And we'll have, these classes usually occur every third week of the month.
Sounds good.
And we also do online webinars, so every now and then you can actually join an online webinar, no matter where it's being held, because it's a class like this, but it's all in front of a laptop.
Nice.
Okay,
Sounds good?
thank you,
guys.
very interesting.
Got it? Got that?
Say again?
Very interesting.
That's the,
Low
yes,
test.
no CC, just a certificate, yes.
I think you said low test, like
This
for
class
the
go
Yeah,
on,
yeah,
I guess, legal liability,
high
high
test,
test,
low
low
test.
gonna go home tonight.
Just for my own knowledge.
that if we don't do something over
Plates in between now. It's actually the wheel, it's not anywhere. Now, the redundant.
Is Jersey City buying Atlantic City?
Yeah.
Can you do,
Huh?
with a wood?
Just
He's the big guy. He's the big guy.
Another plate next to
So
it.
you gotta get a plate in the other end, you do have to take, open the wall.
Yeah, or you just put legs to the ground, then you avoid having to go inside the building.
That's what we were doing.
Regular
Taking it over to mine.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, those are-
Yeah. Legs to the ground is sometimes the
Not
best.
just,
We own-
not
Actually,
the
the only firefighter
Yeah, the whole building,
we
yeah.
have was Mario. who
Yeah, it
came
might help
late
in a lot of ways.
Sure.
The black guy? He's gonna
You have
be
to have the
a
right
firefighter.
footing.
Correct.
No.
4 feet on the ground.
Is that right?
Five inspector also, Mary.
Thanks.
I'm here 28
He's saying-
years.
Thank you.
When I came back, we had, we were half and half. Now we'll apply for it.
Firescape Academy Inspector Training Video. Here we are in Newark, New Jersey. We have several things. Standard Firescape with blockage and razor wire and all kinds of things. We have ladders to the roof with chains on them so that you can't even get this down and use it in any way, broken ladders. And we got a basement. We got a basement one here so that somebody has to use that. Firemen have to use this ladder or this staircase, or the people getting out of the basement, if that's an office or whatever it may be, they need to come up this way.
No.
So
This is the ticket office, right?
I did. The front, I did.
What is this here?
This is the office, but you need tickets?
No, I was just wondering.
No,
Just the
this
back
is
of the ticket
yeah,
office.
this is the-
Okay.
So, looking down, guys, look at the clips up here. Do you see any rust on the clips?
Yep.
Right there on that clip. On the stairs, you see any change of hardware?
No.
If you all come over here, you can actually see, looking straight down, how the rivets are gone. The bolts that hold up the whole staircase.
Yeah, right here. It's not.
Okay, now look at down. When you wiggle that whole thing, look how it wiggles down at the bottom.
Yeah, so that means that's down there.
So is this an imminent danger?
Eminent, yep. And also they have the padlock on the gate.
And there's a padlock on the gate.
Exactly. That's
Okay, so, but even if they say, well, that's just storage down there. Okay, let's say that is just storage. Is this still an imminent danger?
yes.
For who?
For the person that's down there doing
For the
storage,
firefighter.
that's the fire.
For the firefighter. Let's look up. This way. Is this an imminent danger for the firefighter?
Yes.
Why?
The chain is locked.
Chain is locking it.
Plus the it's so
Broken-
bent up and
broken
so
bars.
Some of them.
Right? So that's imminent danger here. Okay, now let's look at this one. Got razor wire, which sometimes in some states razor wire is no longer allowed, unless it's up at a certain height. I don't know if that's the case, but we got razor wire all down here. Could children come here and cut themselves with this razor wire?
Yes.
So is this an imminent danger issue? Okay, a life safety issue? There's a chain that's happening here. Somebody's got this chain stuff happening here. Is this allowed?
No.
Chains, okay. I don't see a dog or anything in here, so let's go in here for a second. Let's get up close to this fire escape. Is this allowed?
No. Oh no.
All right, so now,
Wow.
the fact that we have a beautiful fire escape here, we have a lot of things wrong with it. This is great. Look at this, guys. Let me show you what rust and iron and cement does. Look at that.
Oh yeah, that is.
You don't normally get to see this, but this is what happens when you have porous cement feeding water feeding water to
It's not even
this,
connected anymore. See?
right? And all of this, it all rusts and all grows and spalls and splits. So what's happening in this one, you think it's happening in this one?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so now, can you load test this the way it is?
No.
All right, now let's get underneath. Let's get underneath this here. You see any rust buildup
Yes.
in all these connections.
Yes.
So now you wouldn't be able to normally get up this close. Look at all the bolts. Any bolts missing?
Yes.
These original hardware. Okay, see the rust up there
Both are missing here too.
on the rails.
See right here?
Look at all the bulges. Yep, bolts are missing.
Coming from Elizabeth.
Yep,
Oh, and the
cement,
wreck right there.
cement smashed. So is this now
That's an M and a
a
half.
yellow or is this going into a red?
That's a red.
Okay, so now you're coming down here. Look at these connections. Look at these connections on the ground. So
That's
once
coming
it
up
goes
too.
red, can you have a little bit more power than a yellow?
Yes.
Yeah, a lot.
So once it's red, it's immediate. You're going to deal with it immediately. Now look at this, guys. This is important.
Oh yeah.
This used to have bolts. It used to, and here's a weld. Please come look at this. Somebody came in here, and they welded this. Instead of changing out the bolts and cleaning it, they just welded it. Now look what happens when you let the rust continue. See how it just tears a weld? And there's another weld here. It's just tore. So it tore the weld on this side, and look at the crazy weld
Right
on
there.
that side. So whenever you see a guy welding a fire escape and never removing the rust, how many years you think it's going to take before that weld snaps again?
2 years.
1 to 2 years,
1 to 2 years.
right? If that, because they never remove the rust. Once you put a bolt in there,
So this is probably what they did right here then,
Yep.
right? See, it's nothing there.
right? So instead of rebolting this and cleaning it out and then
Right.
rebolting it, they started welding it in every direction,
Okay.
and they started using welds. See
eventually this will go.
Yeah, this is ready to go. There's the bubble weld right there, just to sort of a Band-Aid patch.
They did the same thing over here too, Gwen. Like
Yep,
they did
look over here. Look at the missing bolts here.
Right.
See the missing bolts there? And these are all original hardware, so very rare do you get this up close to see
That was good.
what
We was
time
able
does
to
to a
get
fire
through it.
escape. Look at this one. Even though this one's solid, you see all the bulging that's now ripping my welds.
They got bolts missing.
So, and somebody comes in here and just rebolts this, is that a satisfactory repair? And never removes the rust?
No.
They must remove the rust. If they don't remove the rust, but they bolted it, it's not a satisfactory repair. You got to remove the original cause of the violation. So this is a life safety issue for who? Who's coming off this roof?
Firefighters.
Is this roof part of the symphony? So people are actually going to jump off some windows up there, onto this roof, over to here,
Yep.
and they're going to come here and do what? Get trapped. They're going to get trapped. If this thing is locked and gated, right? So obviously we got a life safety issue happening. Now we're going to be dealing with that fire escape over there in a second, guys, right?
Yes.
But if this is part of that building and we have a life safety issue here on an address, is it just this, or is the whole thing a life safety issue
The
now?
whole building.
So if you wish, I don't know who wants to raise the red flag, that this, which is a piece of the Symphony Hall, already has life safety issues. All these things that we just talked about here. Now we're going to go look at the big one right now and see what else we have over there. And let's, from down here, looking straight up at the Symphony. Must be structurally sound, must be kept painted. Has that thing been kept painted?
No.
And it's still an active building as we speak? So perfect. So let's just look from down here, because I don't need you guys climbing fire escapes anymore, right?
Oh no, I never.
Because we're not going to do live load testing anymore. Any evidence of any maintenance on this 50 to 75-year-old structure? You start. Can you see any rusty tears? Can you see any rusty tears on the treads?
Every piece of it.
Now see this huge angle right here. Can you see huge amounts of rust in that angle right there?
Yes.
Is that normal?
No.
All right, let's continue walking. These rusty tears coming down the whole wall. Is that an indication that something's rusting?
Everything inside. Yes.
That it's gotten into the building and it's rusting? So let's keep walking. You don't see any evidence of maintenance here. It's all original hardware still, right? I believe there's 2 sides to this building, correct?
Yes. It is. I sent them referral to the building department. They did absolutely nothing. I said, okay, I did my part.
Okay, let's take a look over here. And it looks like this is a new addition to an old structure. Any evidence of maintenance?
None.
Any evidence of rust?
Yes.
Any holes that a child could fall through?
Yep. Right there.
Is that an imminent danger?
Yes.
Okay. So you've got something going on here. Let's look at what some new construction looks like. This is fairly new construction, but it's about 20 years old, right?
rusty.
Can you see any rust that's starting to get behind the welded angle here?
Yes.
Now, you have enough knowledge to qualify this, or you need a structural engineer to look at this? Who tells you how?
Structural engineer.
Very good. Look at all the bolts. New galvanized treads. These are what hex heads look like.
Oh, okay.
See, they're 6-sided. Okay, and these are fairly new. New gratings, new treads. So we don't have a problem here, but are we going to have a problem on this piece here? See all that rusty tears coming out from the welded piece? This is why. Do you trust welds, or what's the only way for me to nullify this weld?
Low test.
Low test it, or can I pop 2 new fresh bolts in there and then seal it from above? And do I need a low test after that?
No.
So once I seal the top, clean the rust, and re-bolt it back in instead of re-welding, do I need to low test this?
No.
Okay. So let's see what we have here for the rest of the fire escape. I don't think you can get it. Oh, you can, guys. They left the door open for you. Usually this is a closed door. Can they have this
No.
during any at any time, actually? Because sometimes they close this at any time with or
Chop this open because it's always locked.
this is a crash bar. This crash bar is broken. Is this functioning or broken?
That's broken.
Life safety issue?
Yes.
Okay, because if this locks, you'll ever get this open?
No.
So let's go look at the old fire escape. Now we don't have to go too far up this fire escape to see things. We've got treads, right? And this is fairly new.
This part here.
You see a broken weld here?
Yep. And bolt missing here.
And bolts missing. So let's go up the treads. This is what holds that whole stringer, guys, right? Is there rust in here?
Yes.
See that? Come and check if I can jam my
This whole
finger.
thing is rusty.
Yeah? Well, you're looking for structural now. Paint job is one thing, structural is another, but an engineer would find these things for you. But now that you're getting a training lesson, is there rust in the clip that's holding up the whole stair?
Yes, because it drips down.
See it?
Yeah.
Is there rust here?
Yes.
Yes.
Is that normal?
Water was able to get through there now.
And water's getting there every day.
Yep.
So let me ask you a question. Is that an imminent hand? Can I hurt myself, or a fireman
Yep.
get trapped in here, or a child? An 8-year-old child would fit through there
Yes.
and fall 15 feet?
And even up there where this is supposed to be that little shed to keep the water from,
Yeah.
that's all ate up.
Yeah. So look straight up then. If you're concerned about that.
That's okay, sit down.
Is that normal to have that much rust
Right back up in the training class, okay?
during so all these need to be load tested. Okay, and we'll just go up a little bit more. Now, if there's a violation written on this, did anybody ever get a report from anybody?
Nope,
Can
I
you
never
see?
did.
Can you see daylight when you look down this connection?
Yes, you can.
Is that normal?
Nope.
See how the
I wrote
rust
this
build up?
a couple of years ago. Sent it to the building department. I haven't gotten anything.
Well, have you hit on some of the things on this building? Have hit imminent danger status?
Yeah, the hole back there.
How about all that rust?
No, this is disgusting.
Okay. Can temporary repairs be done on this fire escape to make it at least functional until such time that permanent repairs take effect? And not it doesn't remove the violation, but it can.
Yeah.
Can you have an engineer
Yeah, they could
walk
temporarily
through and do some
things.
temporary shoring while they're figuring out what the next plan is?
Yes.
So there's always a plan, but that plan always has to come through you guys. And you guys never speak with an engineer after you write a violation, do you?
No.
Look at all these bulges. Could the snow and ice pop through here
Yep.
and hurt somebody? All right. So here we are. I mean, we'll go to the other side, but this is Fire Escape Academy Inspector training videos. And all original hardware. Do you see any evidence of any changes? This is a 75-year-old structure. Any evidence anywhere of a new bolt? So the only thing that's been holding this whole thing together in its lifetime has been a paint job. It's never seen a refurbishment. And is that normal for a 75-year-old structure, never to have refurbishment done to it?
No.
So, this is all you have to look at. Fire Escape Academy, inspector training video. And this is fairly new. This is great. Look how great when it is new, what it means. Oh, by the way, somebody on this one, this is a perfect example, too lazy to bolt it, they welded it. Can I load test this as is with that weld, or do I now have to put in bolts?
You gotta put in bolts.
Otherwise, you have to load test. But as soon as I pop the bolts that the guy should have done in the first place, but sometimes the stringers, the holes are out of alignment, and when the holes are out of alignment, you know what they do? They put them in and weld it more or less where it should be. But now, can I load test it as is? No, because it's welded, but as soon as I bolt it, I don't need to load test them.
Okay.
So welds, because see, they didn't seal it, so these are getting eaten from the inside, and I can't guarantee them. The only way to guarantee them is with a bolt. This one has bolts, this one doesn't.
Right.
So as soon as I bolt those, these two are now going to be equal because they both have bolts. All right, new grading. You see where the rust is getting in at the inside there?
The fire escapes like this, is it a certain length it has to be, you know?
Nope, this is standard grading, 1 inch apart.
1 inch, okay.
Yeah, and the thickness of the grading is either 1 inch by 3/16, so it's going to be 1.5 inch by 3/16 or
And
quarter.
that's on the stairs and everything?
Yep, everything. Everything's 100 pounds per square foot. So this needs to be addressed. This is a life safety issue
Yeah.
because they probably do this, and this is common when they have a repair that they should have done. What they do is when there's something going on here at the show, they do this. They leave it open. Then somebody here at the end of the day comes and locks it up.
Yep.
But then this also locks your firemen into the place. They can't get out.
Exactly.
So this is a life safety issue here.
Yep.
Okay.
And I'm
Any
shocked
questions?
it's
Fire
open
escape.
because that's always locked.
Any questions? Fire Escape Academy Inspector Training videos. So Fire Escape Academy Inspector Training. We're here in East Orange, New Jersey. Inspector Hewitt here. We're using this fire escape here, which is a training tower, if you want to look up. That they train in all day and what to look for if you're doing a downtown walk around. First thing you're going to look for on any fire escape, this is not too old. This is because of the type of grading. This is probably 25 plus years old, not 50 to 75 years old. But man, if you get closer here, one of the first signs that you have an original fire escape is original hardware. Square head bolts, and or if you have square head bolts, it's 50 to 75 years old on average. This one is probably going to be in the 50-year range, 25 to 50, because we don't use square head bolts ever. If it's got rivets, 75 plus, so that fire escape at 155, it's got rivets. It's 92 years old, that building. Okay. With that, as soon as I start seeing joints and corners that have original hardware, the only way to verify that, if they're in good condition, is a load test. Otherwise, if I take that bolt out, which is not a big process, is it? And I put 2 new hex head bolts in there, have I satisfied you that that's in good condition of repair? Okay, so I'm going to take these 2 bolts out. There's no evidence of rust. And I'm going to, Manny, if you want to come closer and look at that connection, and I put 2 new brand new bolts. You want me to load test it, or have I satisfied you that it's structurally sound right now?
It should be structurally sound.
Perfect. So now in lieu of a load test, you're saying that I've satisfied you on the connection. Let's go over here to the side. You see this bracket here on the corner? It's a welded connection. I can verify that in one of 2 ways. I can load test it, which is very expensive, or I can x-ray it, which is also very expensive. But if I come in here and I drill a hole through that welded connection, which looks good to me still, but the only other way to verify it is load test it or x-ray it, and I put a bolt in there, 1/2 inch, 5/8. Have I satisfied you that in lieu of a load test, that bolt now is making you sleep well at night?
Yeah.
Will anybody get hurt? And if there's any opening of any kind, I'm going to silicone shut it. Okay? So we got the same thing in the back. So some of these bolts in the back, I have a choice. And that's what a hex head looks like. See, that's a hex head?
Yeah.
Look at the square heads. Okay? So the ladder has nothing but original hardware, because you look up, you see nothing. So on this fire escape, I would, to reinforce it, in lieu of a load test, I would re-bolt all the supports, even though they look good. Okay? So now let's look underneath here. You see that support going into the wall? Those supports into the wall, I have a way to verify them. I'll open up your wall over here, I'll jackhammer some big, huge hole, or I'll go inside and maybe there's a plate inside that I can verify. So if the inside plate looks good, the outside bolt looks good, there's the verification, and I'll take some pictures for you. Otherwise, the only other way to do it is load test it. But if I can't open this and I can't see it inside, and you say, hey, I need a guarantee, how about if I put next to it, 5 inches away, I drill a 3/4 hole into this masonry building, I put a Hilti epoxy bolt inside, and then I take a mechanical fastener and I bring it back to the connection. And I let sleeping dog lie. So you keep the original one, but I give you a brand new epoxy bolt into the wall. Have I satisfied you that the thing is structurally sound now? Now I'm at 200%. Are you satisfied? Because that's a hidden that I can't. So I've talked to you about the main 2 hidden ones. Into the wall, which nobody can see without x-ray. I just duplicate it. It's faster. It's cheaper. Welded, I already talked about it, right? So now let's talk about these treads. All these treads. You see any change of bolts on all original hardware. Behind these, see all that rusting that's coming in behind all my flips. On all that rusting, you think any of that is affecting the integrity of any bolt on your treads? So I can verify these if you like, but I got to load test it. Or in lieu of a load test, can I take out every single bolt, put in new hex head bolts, and before I do that, I got to take the tread out, clean it, prime it, put it back with new hex head bolts. Do you still want me to load test it after I change the bolts? So there's the gap. There's what I'm doing to you. I'm proving to you that it's ready for a load test so that you don't order a load test. Okay, that's a level 2. A level 2 is I take any knowns and unknowns and I go beyond any reasonable doubt that you are satisfied that they're structurally sound so that you don't order a load test as it states in your code. Okay? So now let's take a look at any other things that we have on this fire escape. Because after I see this first floor, do I care about the other floors? Or did they just repeat themselves?
They should repeat.
Yeah,
They should be the same.
Whatever's wrong here is wrong here. Is there any other fire escape on this building? There's this one. Okay, so now let's go into this piece over here. See how it's starting to fall, separate? So all this is really just about verification of what can be seen and what cannot be seen. How about my grading? Any problem with my grading? Looks pretty good, doesn't it? All my connections, you see my connections into the corners, and they're all welded. So it's a 50 to 75-year-old bolt in the corner. So I can say, let's load test it to prove to you that it's good, or can I change those 2 bolts in lieu of a load test? Sometimes those bolts are in great condition. They're in A1 condition. Can I put, is there room there for me to drill one more hole and put a fresh new bolt between them? There is. There is. Even over here, right? Is there room for me to put a bolt between these 2 bolts? One. Yeah. So in some cases, I don't even have to take out the bolt. It's like maybe a reinforcement bolt between the 2. You know what I'm saying? And then whenever possible, seal it. Are you seeing rust getting in there? Yeah. So after I clean it and remold it, I should always seal it with 50 years silicone. And as always, as far as it needs a paint job. Are you aware of the renovators EPA lead law issue?
Yeah, I've heard about that.
1978 or older, every structure is supposed to have lead-based primers. Is this older than 1978? So it has lead. I can't weld on it. 98% of all the fire escapes in the United States are bolted connection fire escapes. And I can't fix it with a weld, okay? But that's okay because everything's bolted anyway. So guys that don't want to come here and fix this with a weld, they can't because the EPA says no. And when I scrape and paint this, I have to have an EPA renovator's license. You get it on the weekend. It's an 8-hour course. It just teaches me how to put a piece of plastic down. It teaches me to wear the white suit. It doesn't make me wear oxygen masks and, you know, all these crazy things, but it makes me, in case this is a house with children, it makes me close this window, put a sign on it saying, please don't open the window while, and then as I collect all the chips that are here, I gotta properly collect them in my white suit, and then I gotta put it in a trash, in a dumpster. I can't just throw it out as regular trash because it's hazardous waste. That's what the renovator is. So, in our next class that we teach, when we teach you the final course, if we go downtown, we're gonna be walking under apartment buildings, we're gonna be walking on fire escapes that have cantilevers, we're going to be walking with fire escapes that have ladders, and this one is one that has no release arm on it, and it's chained. So this is a guillotine style. And she's supposed to have weights on this thing. Now, again, this is a training tower, but if I was to take that chain off, and I happen to be, thinking about something over here, and somebody mistakenly releases that ladder, it's called a guillotine ladder. They will crush or kill anybody below them. So they must drop 2 to 3 feet per second. So it needs weights. This is made not but ladders over sidewalks, ladders over anywhere with them, where there's an accidental release. If there's a dog, a child, or a person underneath here, they're going to get hurt or killed. So that's illegal to have this kind of setup over a public way. So all ladders must have a release. Cantilevers must drop 2 to 3 feet per second. I'm going to cover that in the class. But right now, you're looking at, in order for me to satisfy the code in New Jersey, I must load test this, or I can provide you with a calculated load test, which is I've gone in and eliminated all the rust in every connection, eliminated any issue with welds, and eliminated any invisible into the wall by either verifying it with photographs for you or duplicating the connection because it was cheaper. And there's your satisfaction. That method is applied to any fire escape I'm ever going to see here in East Orange, as well as in the United States. Sounds good? Yeah. Thanks for being part of the class.
Fire Escape Academy Inspector Training Video. Here we are in Clifton, New Jersey, and we're looking at typical fire escape and looking to see if we have any violations here. And the law is very clear. You need 2 violations, or 2 types of violations you can write. You can write a paint violation, you can write a structural violation. The paint violation is sometimes the easiest. As long as you can find that the fire escape has not been painted or maintained, you can write that violation, and you write it this way. You write it repair, paint, test. That automatically triggers, because you wrote the word repair, it triggers the requirement that the fire escape be professionally evaluated by a structural engineer or a fire escape inspector. And that's what you get. And the test for a fire escape is very simple. Is it got more rust than paint, or more paint than rust, or is it just at the borderline there? Well, this fire escape has not been maintained. I got spot rust all over the rails, all over the supports, all over the ladder, all over everywhere. So I've got more rust than paint. And this fire escape, I can write a deterioration violation under the code. But let's say that the guy knew you were coming, and a week before you showed up, he threw somebody out here to scrape it and paint it right away. What other issues can you write about if you don't have a simple violation to write on deterioration? So you got to go for structural. Let's take a look at the structural. The easiest to write on any structural. The age of the fire escape is 50 to 75 years old, which this one is. Square head bolts is the dead giveaway. That means this fire escape is old. Those bolts are 50 to 75 years old. Whenever you have a fire escape that's 50 to 75 years old and there's not one new bolt on it, not one new hex head on it anywhere, I can guarantee you under a structural review that one of these bolts is bad and it's going to hurt or kill somebody. One of these bolts is bad, it's going to give away and fall away. Which one is it? Well, that's why you need the structural review. Because 50 to 75-year-old bolts cannot last this long. They must be refurbished. So I've got squares on the railings, I've got squares on the supports, I've got squares on the ladder. So I have enough here just to write a structural structural violation, because I don't have confidence in all these bolts. But I need an engineer to come and tell me that all these square head bolts are good. The normal repair would be on anything that's superstructure, they would change the bolts out anyway and just not risk anything. Anything that's minor and the bolts still look good, there's no growth, you can still keep square heads on non-structural minor structural issues. But on major structurals, those should all be replaced and or backed up with a new bolt. So sometimes you have a good square head bolt and you don't want to take it out, you just want to back it up with another bolt. And that'll make everybody comfortable and sign off on things. So let's take a look at some other things that are dead giveaways that we have problems on this fire escape. Let's take a look at this ladder. Actually, before we get on the ladder, we'll end up on the ladder. Look at the stains coming down this wall. That means we've got cement issues. That means that water's penetrating behind and into this wall, and the tears are the first indication that you have a cement problem. So that's another violation right there. But now let's just end on this ladder. That ladder has a chain up there, and that chain is long, and it's made for you to grab the chain and walk it down so that this thing basically swoops out on a pivot. Now, this is not original construction, and I'll tell you why. Everything must be single action, requiring no special knowledge, and if this thing ever gets released at the wrong time, it could potentially hurt or kill somebody. So that makes it illegal. Somebody made this, nobody ever caught it, but these swing out ladders, they're supposed to drop down they're supposed to come straight down like a guillotine with weights on them, or they can be folding ladders against the wall, and that's what you can do on this particular building. You can put a folding ladder on the wall there. But right now, if somebody comes out in a panic, they grab that chain, they just let it go in there, and a fireman is running down this alleyway to come and save these people. If the two intersect at the exact time, that ladder swinging out with nobody controlling the chain is going to hurt, maim, or kill a fireman or somebody down below. So that makes this ladder illegal. The ladder must be mounted against the wall and comes down on a weight balance system, but this is not single action, requiring no special knowledge. Should that chain give way right now for whatever reason while I'm underneath it, it'll hurt or kill me. So it also needs a release arm out there that keeps the thing from falling. So that's the issue with this ladder. That's a violation, that this ladder is not properly balanced and not single action, requiring no special knowledge. All you need to write on your violation is repair, paint, test. Do not write anything specific about the ladder, because they'll just fix the ladder. Write repair, paint, test. The repair word triggers the requirement for them to get a structural engineer to do an evaluation, and they'll pick up the fact that the ladder is not proper. If you have any questions on this or any other Firescape Academy video that you've seen, give us a call at Firescape Engineers for further training at 866-649-0333. As always, you can see more of these videos on Firescape Academy Inspector Training on YouTube. Just search Firescape Academy and you'll see all the videos that we have on this and many other types of firescape that include cantilevers, ladders, balconies only, you know, many versions. And as always, we'll help your city implement the Firescape Awareness Program. We'll send you industry standard confidence tests, tags, load test criteria, and firescape repair procedures so that you can get these firescapes under control. But this firescape right now has not passed inspection because it needs a paint job, and it has not passed inspection because it's got structural issues, because it has original square head bolts, plus this ladder is not properly balanced. Firescape Engineers Inspector Summary Video. We're here in Lodi, New Jersey, completing a firescape. This is a firescape summary review. What we're looking here is a firescape that is 50 to 75 years old, as original to the building. And what we're looking for in this inspection is to satisfy the law. The law is very simple. You must load test your firescape or provide to the inspector an alternative that also offers a certification and a guarantee that the firescape is ready to be load tested. So in that case, in a 50 to 75 year old firescape, usually within the past 25 years, the major structural on this firescape has been reinforced or replaced. So we were here to see that all the staircase should have been rebolted. In this case, it is not. It's got all original square head bolts on the treads. We are looking for some evidence of rebolting and or reinforcement of the platform. All original square head bolts on that one. We're looking for any evidence of reinforcement on this one. Again, 50 to 75 years old, the major superstructure usually gets rebolted. This one has no evidence. So this firescape has never been refurbished or reinforced in its 50 to 75 year life. The only thing that this firescape has ever seen is just paint jobs of some kind, and right now it's in need of another paint job. So even on the paint, it has not seen a paint job in at least 15 to 25 years. With that being said, the refurbishment of this firescape
and getting it ready for a load test, because as is, it will not take a load test. We will not authorize a load test, simply because every connection on this fire escape is 50 to 75 years old. So we will not authorize a load test on this fire escape. Now, to refurbish this fire escape in lieu of a load test, and again, the city official still has the power to load test it, but we need to offer the city official a guarantee that the fire escape will hold a load test, and the guarantee is going to come in this form. Starting with the treads, 100% of all the treads need to be rebolted. No rust in any connection, so all the connections must be clean of any rust. Reinforce or rebolt 100% of the entire staircase. The platforms up above, the connections that tie at the points, those must be rebolted or reinforced, whatever's cheaper to the client. The tiebacks into the building, those must be verified. You have to go inside the building and verify that the tiebacks into the building are good from external or internal view and verification. If not, if it's faster and cheaper, you want some new Hilti epoxy bolts next to the connection. So 3 to 5 inches away from the connection, you put a new bolt into the wall, 8 to 12 inches, then mechanically fasten back to the support. Now you've basically prepared the platform to be load tested. The whole frame of the platform, all the critical corner connections, no square bolts there. You need to rebolt those connections. The flats that go across on this fire escape do not need to be rebolted unless they've got evidence of rust in them, because those are minor structural, but the framing of the platform needs to be done. All the rails, the corner posts need to be rebolted, but the bars in between the rails, they do not need to be rebolted, but they need to be in good to excellent condition. The staircase, the stringer clips at the top and the clips at the bottom need to be rebolted. The rails, any posting on the rails coming down need to be rebolted, because it's a critical component. This platform and that platform both need the same thing. So reinforce the entire platform with new bolting. The supports that go into the wall need to be verified, or they need to be duplicated with new epoxy anchors 8 to 12 inches deep into the wall. Let's take a look at this ladder. This ladder, first of all, needs to be balanced so that when you release it, it drops 2 to 3 feet per second. It does not go back up. This stops anybody from getting up to the fire escape, including the firemen. So you need to perfectly balance this ladder so that when you release it, it drops to the ground and stays down. So you need to put a chain or a lock mechanism right there, and that thing will allow the fire escapes from being pulled down by anybody trying to break into the building. So it's an anti-theft device. At the same time, it's a release mechanism to drop your ladder. The weight box is, and the cable associated with the weight box is old. It's unverifiable right now, so, and it's all rusted. So change the entire cable. That pulley system up there, it's original to the building. Those pulleys are cast iron. They're not reliable anymore. So you need to basically just get a new pulley system that the cable will go through. They're much smaller. They're also housed, and some of them will have a simple bearing system on them, but that cannot be utilized currently the way it is, because if that wheel pulley ever breaks due to the casting, this will all come tumbling down to the ground. So the cable and the pulley up there needs to be swapped out. The ladder and the connections to the ladder, all original hardware, so that all needs to be swapped out, whatever holds the ladder in place. The weight box is controlled, and it's got, so in case it ever gets released and the cable ever breaks, with a new release arm on the ladder and a control on the weight box, this thing will never hurt anybody. The last thing we need too on here is that, as you can see from evidence of all the rusting, this ladder actually comes down into this parking space here. And sometimes when people, and during snow emergencies or whatever it may be, they don't always will park. So what you're going to want to do is put in a bollard or some form of marking here on the ground, very clearly identifying that no parking be behind us. So a lot of times a bollard is what you want to use here, but because of snow and plows you may have a problem. But definitely a huge yellow streak will keep this car from ever parking in an area where the ladder comes down and falls down. So again, because this fire escape has never been refurbished, you're looking at least 75% refurbishment on this fire escape, and it needs a full paint job. Now, paint job, this fire escape is older than 1978. So this fire escape must be handled by somebody, because it does have lead. It must be handled by somebody with a renovator's license. And all that is a general contractor that has gone to an EPA course that understands that you cannot weld on this fire escape, you can only change bolts. So no welding of any kind on this fire escape. It's an occupied building with children. Can't weld on a fire escape that has lead. The other thing too is that any work done on this fire escape must be done with a full repair permit. So no work of any kind allowed on this without a repair permit. And last, the engineer oversight. This fire escape must have about, could be done as little as 3 visits, but sometimes a visit takes about 5 visits by a structural engineer who will oversee and coordinate with the city official that the fire escape is being refurbished, and that under his watch he will guarantee at the end of the repair, with 3 to 5 visits, confirming all the connections into the wall, confirming all the connections, and prior to any paint job, the engineer must sign off on this fire escape, saying that all the structure was done to his satisfaction and to his guidance. With that, the fire escape is then ready to be painted, and again by an EPA renovator. So any questions? Fire escape engineers, Inspector Meneses, 800-649-3333.